So are you a real artist, or do you have a day job? I'm Daniel Winnington. I'm the Chancellor of Wizard Academy and Whiskey Marketing School. This is a conversation that I've had for like 30 years. Young Daniel was absolutely sure that the only thing he wanted in life was to be a full-time musician. And young Daniel achieved that. It wasn't permanent, and it wasn't always consistent. It sort of came and went, like the tide. Like, for windows of time in my life, the only thing I did to pay my bills and eat was music. And then for other windows, I would have a side gig, like a coffee shop or a bartender, or working on side gigs doing like landscaping and clean up odd jobs, or at one point working for like a pretty legit marketing company. But I was always playing music, and I always viewed those as like side gigs in order to fund the music career. But very regularly during that season, and that season for me lasted like 20 years, during that season, you'd have this conversation, random stranger. So, what do you do for a living? Me, I'm a musician. Oh, cool, is that it? Like, you just play music for a living? Yeah, I play music for a living. So, like, all your bill, like 100%, you don't do anything else? Oh, well, I mean, sometimes I do some other stuff. Oh, so you're not a real musician. Yeah. Over and over. And I think that's bullshit for so many reasons. It's hard to pick one. But I'm going to go into a lot of them. But first, just because I want to drink this and talk about it real quick, this is Teeling Irish whiskey. This is their cask strength Calvados barrel finished whiskey. So Calvados, if you don't know, is a French brandy made from apples. So think start apples, make apple cider, and then ferment to put it in a barrel, make brandy, but out of apples. So Calvados is apple brandy, or apple cider brandy, even if you wanted to call it that. It's not that common. As a matter of fact, in the drinking community, people who are drinking brandy, Calvados is even a smaller group than the people drinking brandy, and the group of people drinking brandy is shrinking. Although I think recently that's changing a little bit, and I hope it is, because as Alex Chaska says, he's the master distiller at Teeling, he's like, man, I wish more people were drinking Calvados, because then we'd have access to better Calvados barrels. And he said in one of his interviews, one of the reasons I'm doing this is because hopefully I can gateway people into Calvados and we'll expand the Calvados drinking market. But Irish whiskey and Teeling is already really big into these like super fruit pastry fruit notes. And when you add to that apple brandy as a finish, I can imagine that this is fruit explosion turned up to 10, but we're about to find out. This is the first time I've opened this. This was actually, I was hanging out with a couple of fine gentlemen from Teeling here on campus, and they left this bottle behind, and I just wanted to show it to you guys. So normally this would go on gifted reviews, but they didn't ask for it to be reviewed. I don't think they thought I was gonna take it home to my house. But instead, I'm gonna put it in the vault. Oh man, yes, okay. So this is honey cream, but like shortbread pastry note. And then just a dominating layer, like you stuck a knife into an apple jam jar and just slathered it on to the shortbread pastry. It is dense. This is a higher proof too. It's 55% alcohol. This is so dense. Oh. Yeah, I just can't, there's so much density in here, I'm slowing down on the nose because I really want to crack through to what's behind that. But it's very heavy-handed. Oh, man. There you go. Now I'm getting some like malty, almost ginger cookie, almost ginger snappy, but still slathered in fruit and apples and pears. But the grain shows up a little bit on the palate. And then there's same thing. I'm gonna add some water and talk more about music. There's or art. There's a density to this that I kind of want to get behind, and I'm hoping that a little dash of water will sort of wake it up. Okay, so If you want to make music for a living, and I would argue this is true of most art, but I have the most experience with music. If you want to make music for a living, you've never lived at a better time than right now. Full stop. If you want to be rich or famous as an artist, you've never lived in a worse time. Our attention is too fractured, our attention is too divided for any one single artist other than a handful of, Taylor Swifts and Billie Eilish's to crack through to general awareness at a level that you're likely to need in order to make a living, to be rich and famous and buy houses and, different lands and things. But if you want to make a decent teacher salary, rent a house, and have a used car for the rest of your life and make, $50K a year, but all you're going to do is play music, that is 100% possible, and it's never been more possible than right now. Now, you're going to have to make some choices about, do you take side gigs? Do you also play weddings? You can't just hunker down, do your art, track your albums, and live in isolation and never tour and never play a show and then hope people on the internet will buy your music and pay your bills. That's not how that works. You have to work for a living, everyone. But if you're willing to work for a living, then the chances of you doing what you want for a living are a lot easier these days as an artist. As a painter, as a videographer, you've got more access to more people and more odd jobs and more weird tangential, who even knew that they needed musicians for that, or even knew that they needed a painter for that. This is a great time. But is it worth it to just only do that? And I think the answer is, it depends. I got off the road because I was watching my boys grow up without me. And I decided, nope, that ship has sailed. I'm not doing that anymore. And I sort of quit touring. I still struggle, even today, with this whole sometimes waking up in the middle of the night, 3 a.m, going, you gave up on your dream and you're not a real musician. And then I have to wake up in daylight and be like, no, I made the right call, brain. And yes, I am a real damned musician. I'm still recording stuff. I'm still writing songs. I'm still playing with my friends. I'm not doing tours. I'm not really playing a lot of public shows, but I'm still a damned musician. Some of the best musicians I've ever met in my entire life are working full-time corporate gigs while also playing 2 to 3 shows a week and recording albums. Are they not real? Are you going to tell them they're not real musicians? I'll introduce you to them. They play better than most of the people watching this video. I recently heard about a friend of mine who's 30 years old. He's not 30, he's in his 40s. He's been a professional musician for 30 years. And he's just now getting his first huge, big record deal with a big, massive, you would all know it, record label. Does that mean that up until now he wasn't real? I don't think so. I don't think that's how that works. So I think you need to change the definition of what real artist means in your brain and understand that it's just a choice. There are countless studies out there that show just the simple act of creating something from nothing does wonders for your psychology, for your mental health, for mental acuity, for your mood and for depression. Just across the board, we are creative creatures and we should all be creating. And the one thing that should not stop us is this idea that there's this small category of people called artists and they get to create all the art, and then the rest of us have to have real jobs where we just deal with reality, but we don't get to do that art thing. That's bullshit. Quit thinking like that. Go create something. Go do something. So, you're an artist. How you pay the bills is irrelevant. How you eat, irrelevant. If you create things, you're an artist of any kind, right? And if anyone has ever in your whole life paid you for creating something, then you're on your path to being a professional artist. Now, you just have to decide, is that the life you want to live? Is the life of a professional artist how you want to raise your family, how you want to spend your day in and day out? And don't ever think it's not hard. It's harder than going and getting a day job. Way harder. But if that's your choice, then you've done it. And if you haven't and you just choose to keep creating while doing something else to pay the bills, you're still an artist and I would still love to see what you're doing. So if you create things, put a link down here, and so we can all go see it. The water really opened up the nose and sort of cracked through to everything on this. It's a little more musty, a little more grain forward. The apple has subsided a little bit. The palate got a little bit sweeter, too much so. So I like it more at cask strength. And I'm really glad you're here. Cheers to you. Hey, everybody who creates things needs support, and we are no different. If you like this channel, like and subscribe.